Minecraft 1.21.6 brings the Happy Ghast, improved leashes, the Locator Bar, improvements to the saddle, and other cool changes. Good on, my name is MagentaLewi and welcome to another Minecraft update video. If you don't want to miss out on any essential updates to Minecraft, but don't want to waste your time on videos about bug fixes and code changes in every single snapshot, subscribing to my channel is the perfect way to only get the news worth knowing, and it also helps a small YouTuber grow. Minecraft 1.21.6 is out now, and even though I've already covered most of its content, I still wanted to do a single video containing all the notable features and changes in the newest game drop. Also, in the end of the video, I'll shortly talk a little bit about the update schedule Mojang is running this year, as I've seen a lot of people misunderstanding it. Not taking anyone's side here, I'm just here to get the facts straight for everyone. So, without further ado, let's get straight into the new features. The main star of this game drop is of course the fan favorite new transport nether exploration forcing cutie patootie, the Happy Ghast. When exploring the nether, you can find the dried ghast in the nether fossils of soul sand valleys. The dried ghast can also be obtained through bartering. And right there we have it, one dried ghast, or be crafted with 8 ghast tears and 1 soul sand. The dried ghast can be mined instantly with any or no tools at all and picked up as any block in the game. Although handled as a block, it is actually a mob, and when waterlogged it goes through 3 stages of rehydrating. Every 5 minutes it will get lighter and start smiling more and more. If the water is removed, the hydrated ghast will dry back into the previous stages, each taking 5 minutes to go back as well. And even worse, if you were to pick up the rehydrated ghast, it would go straight back to the first stage. After 20 minutes, the dried ghast will turn into a ghastling. Besides spawning from a rehydrated dried ghast, it can also be spawned by using a Happy Ghast spawn egg on a Happy Ghast. The ghastling has 10 hearts, and when spawning, the ghastling immediately sets a home position, which is at the block that it spawns on. If there are no players or preferred mobs near this home position, the ghastling will idle around it within 32 blocks of the home position. However, if there is a player or alternatively an adult non-aquatic passive mob or the adult neutral mobs of bees, foxes, goats, llamas, pandas, or the polar bear, the ghastling will follow these within a 16 block radius. If it is moved more than 48 blocks away from its home position, it will reset its home position to there. The home position can also be reset to the block it's floating above by simply interacting with the ghastling by feeding it snowballs. Feeding it snowballs will also speed up their growth, which explains why they can be tempted with them as well. After 20 minutes or a bunch of snowballs, the ghastling grows into a Happy Ghast. The Happy Ghast is spawned when a ghastling grows up or when using the Happy Ghast spawn egg. It also spawns with 10 hearts, and if hurt it will regenerate a heart every minute or a heart every 2 seconds if in rain, snow, or at the cloud level. The Happy Ghast idles around within 64 blocks of its home position, but can also be tempted with the snowballs or with the harness. The harness is a new item crafted with 3 leather, 2 glass, and a wool of any color. This harness can also be dyed afterwards if you want to change the color. The harness can then be put on a Happy Ghast, just like so, and when you do that, up to 4 players can actually sit on top of the Happy Ghast and fly around on it. If no players are sitting on the Happy Ghast with the harness, it can be removed with the shears. Harnessing or deharnessing the Happy Ghast counts as an interaction and then resets the Happy Ghast's home position. The harnessed Happy Ghast only idle around within 32 blocks of its home position, and when a heavy ghast is mounted, the goggles of the harness comes down to cover its eyes so that it is ready to take flight. The first player to mount sits in front and gets to control the heavy ghast, while the other 3 players will sit all around it. When standing on the heavy ghast, it will stop moving completely and the player can move around on top of it, using it as movable scaffolding. If the player falls off, the heavy ghast will go straight down before starting to idle again. So as you can see, well, that wasn't so straight, but it is going down to the ground before it starts idling again. Talking so much about the heavy ghast, it's also worth noting that the regular ghast has gotten a look overhaul, so it is now just like the heavy ghast in the way that the textures are looking. And now the ghast will also drop a new music disc when the player successfully hits its fireball back on itself. No! Where are you going? Oh no! The lead is now crafted only with string and with no The lead is no longer crafted with a slime ball, but only with string. And its design has been updated to be twice as thick than before. Mobs can now be leashed together so they can drag each other around like that, but the lead can also be removed with the shears. And the lead mechanics were in general improved a lot, making the lead way more stable than it usually was. Except when flying, as using a firework rocket when flying with a leashed mob now will break the lead. Boats, horses, donkeys, mules, camels and sniffers can be leashed to a heavy ghast, creating a special setup with 4 leads that let the player move mobs and items through the skies. And yes, the heavy ghasts can also be leashed together. So you can actually make it possible to move tons of stuff around like this, because you can just drag the other heavy ghast with you when they are leashed. And by the way, the lead now snaps at 12 blocks and not 10 as before, although a lead on a heavy ghast don't snap until 16 blocks. The Locator Bar is a new multiplayer tool that displays the direction of other players in your world in place of the experience bar, and all players will automatically be given a different color dot on the bar. If there are no other visible players in the world, or the player is actively gaining experience, the experience bar will show up instead. And if jumping on a horse or charging with a camel, the charging bar will show up instead. If a player is above or below the direction a player is looking, their dot will show an up or down arrow. If a player is more than 179 blocks away, the dot will get smaller and smaller up to being tiny when a player is more than 281 blocks away. As we've already seen, a player can become invisible when wearing the pumpkin hat or by wearing a mob head. And a player will also become invisible from the locator bar when crouching. Now, since Silren has gone into spectator mode, I am not able to see him, nor am I able to see his dot on the spectator bar. But seeing it from Silren's view, it's different, as he can actually still see both me and of course also my dot on the locator bar. Now, of course, spectators are not completely invisible, as other spectators can still see their heads and also their dots on the locator bar. And if you are using teams in your Minecraft world, the dots on the locator bar will also match the color of your team. Saddles can now be removed from all animals with the shears. And that will undoubtedly save a lot of Striders' lives. Well, except for the fact that the saddle can still burn in the lava. But at least now you don't have to kill the Strider to get the saddle back. And in even crazier news, the saddle can now be crafted with 3 leather and 1 iron ingot. This will undoubtedly make mob riding much more viable and useful, as it can be accessed in very early game now. And for this exact reason, saddles are now swapped for 1 to 5 leather in all loot chests previously containing the saddle. The time of the effect of a splash potions is now determined by the distance between where the potion lands and the entity or the player. So with this, for an example, is a 8-minute night vision potion, and if I throw this all the way over there, it actually didn't have effect. If I throw it here, I got some effect, but I only got 43 seconds. But if I throw it directly at my feet, I now have the full 8 minutes. Now carrots have the same effect on horses, donkeys and mules as apples, since they now also can heal and grow them and improve their temper. The clouds now go all the way to the horizon, and their pattern has also been updated. Actually, there is a creeper face in one of the clouds, and it is relatively rare, but they are set after like a certain pattern, so you can fly around to find it somewhere. So yeah, good luck hunting after that. Firefly bushes now has a bigger amount of particles. While gliding with the elytra, fireworks can now only be used to boost the flight and will not be activated to fly to the sky, even when placed on a block. And that was everything new in Minecraft 1.21.6. So question is, what do we know about the future of Minecraft? Well, at this point we don't know much, but we do know that we will get another game drop in fall and another one in winter. So in other words, we can expect 2 more small updates this year. Now, I've seen a lot of people complain about the size of the game drops, comparing them to full updates. And I'm not trying to defend Mojang in general here, but they've been very honest about their new update schedule, so I just want everybody to get the facts straight before complaining about it. In Minecraft's early years, they actually did multiple small updates a year, just like now, and back then, an example of a full game update could be update 1.1, containing only spawn eggs and changes to already existing features, or update 1.3 containing temples, the trading system, an expansion to wood blocks, the tripwire hook and the ender chest, and then nothing else. Now, this is no complaint from me, and I'm not saying these updates weren't game-changing, but fact is they were the same size as the game drops, and they were labeled as full game updates. Then from 2017 and 3 years forward, we only got 1 update each year. And looking back at them, they didn't even include that much more than the previous small updates multiple times a year, but of course they were still bigger. And then in 2019, we then got 1.15 as an extra update to 1.14 earlier that year. And just like the early updates, this was still labeled as a full update, although it only included bees, bug fixes and bedrock parity. And in my opinion, this was a cool bonus to the yearly update that we had already gotten. But Mojang faced a lot of complaints and backlash as so-called fans compared this update to the other updates from the past 3 years. And although this is just speculation, I'm pretty sure this is the exact reason why they don't call small updates updates anymore, but game drops, and no longer change the full number but splits them up. Because in the old standard, Armored Pause would have been update 1.21, but instead they named it Game Drop 1.20.5. It's an attempt to communicate to us, the players, how much we can expect from the update. Then in 2021 came the big communication failure of caves and cliffs, and although Mojang did poorly here, they've clearly learned from their mistake. But I see so many people still referring to this as a reason why Mojang is bad at developing the game to this day. And you know, personally, I think that's unfair, as they've changed their communication a lot these last 4 years. So let me try and explain how and why Mojang changed the update schedule after this. In 2020, Mojang announced Caves and Cliffs and showed off some features that they could not complete before the deadline due to the pandemic. Now, pushing back game releases is completely normal in game development. I mean, most games these days are either released full of bugs or pushed back from their original release date. And as Mojang learned from 2015 after the Microsoft takeover, no updates in a year does not keep the game relevant. So they did the best thing possible in a bad situation and released whatever was ready, pushing the increased world height and depth to a part 2 and the rest of the announced features to next year's update. And boy oh boy, did people get mad that they didn't get all of what was promised. And that's despite the fact that Caves and Cliffs Part 1 is actually one of the biggest Minecraft updates ever made. Again, I'm not defending this as a whole, since it was a big miscommunication, but looking back at it, it's actually quite fun to see how much content we got, but solely because they teased even more than that, without delivering, but still labeled it as a full update. People were going absolutely mad. So listening to the community, no updates in a year is bad. Labeling small updates as a full update is really bad. And teasing unfinished features is almost a death sentence. Even when the teased features weren't cancelled but just pushed back. So what can Mojang really do now? Well, only doing big updates and stop teasing features at all would be an understandable move to make, but that really takes the fun out of speculating and getting these update insights, and as a Minecraft YouTuber I'd obviously hate that, and luckily Mojang went another route. So now they are splitting the yearly big updates into multiple small updates a year. They are labeling these small updates as game drops to lower expectations. They released planned and mostly finished features in snapshots for us to try out, and they are even putting unfinished features into the experiment category, so we can still test and have fun with them without being promised that they'll be fully released in the near future. Yet I still see so many people complaining and comparing the game drops to full updates and complaining. My guys, the game drops are all small parts of one big update. Bats and Pots and Armored Pores was not individual updates, but parts of Trails and Tales, even featuring features that teased and laid the groundwork for 1.21. We can agree to disagree on whether or not this is a good release strategy, but if you complain about the Garden Awakens being too small comparing it to a full update like the Nether update, you've clearly not understood that 1.21.4 means it's part of 1.21. Tricky Trials is one update combined with Bundles of Bravery, The Garden Awakens, Spring to Life, and now also 1.21.6. 1.21.6 is not a full update in itself, obviously. And putting all these together as one actually makes a pretty decent sized update. Now I'm not saying Mojang couldn't add more or that they couldn't easily add certain features that can vastly improve the game. Oh no, I do not. There are so many obvious things that they should do to update the game and make it better. Some complaints most definitely has a point, and it's completely fair to want more. It's completely fair to ask Mojang to add more to the full updates. But to compare the game drops to full updates just doesn't make any sense. If we keep giving them backlash for game drops, the only alternative is to not make them at all and not give us any new features in between the full updates. And that would honestly be so sad and boring. So please be happy that we get early access to features of an update before the full release, and then wait to complain about the number of features until we have the full update. Then please, for my sake, complain all you want. And by the way, as I've understood it, they're still working on a big update at the same time, behind the scenes, that they just don't want to tease before it being finished, because of the backlash in 2021. So there's still a lot of features to come and a lot of free updates to be excited for. We just tend to forget that the small updates are Mojang's way of communicating what they're working on and letting the community test it with them. Anyways, I just had to get this off my chest as one of the Minecraft enjoyers that follows the development of the game closely. So I'm sorry if this got a bit long, but I hope that this gave some insight on why and how Mojang has changed the update schedule. And with that, I hope you found this video useful, and if you did, then please do leave a like and make sure to subscribe and comment your favorite new feature of this update. With all that out of the way, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.